People that know me, they know I hate the Jersey market. I hate the attitudes in Jersey, and I hate the way we sort of are. We're so behind the UK, which is normal, which is fine. But
you mean like open to new? And
yeah, no one's like interested in new stuff. People, as you say, oh, you've got the fillet steaks. You know what I mean? And it's like, fuck's sake, come on.
My guest today is Tom Radiguet. I used to work with Tom back in the times when I was still in the hospitality industry, and we also done the cooking college here in Jersey together. Tom continued in the industry and he made it all the way up to a position of head chef, one of the best places to eat on the island, Samphire Restaurant. Tom, welcome to Hospitality Insights. It's kind of a weird situation we are now in because we used to work in the past, but yeah, we never really had like a long conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for accepting my invite, and we're gonna go straight into it. I have a few questions for you, although I kind of know your history and background. Yeah, I want other people to understand it because you got now to a really high level for what Jersey can offer in terms of hospitality, and I think you have an interesting story. So could you please tell me what's your career timeline and how you got to work in hospitality?
So, I mean, cooking's always been a big thing for me, as you know. From, sort of young, doing a lot of cooking at home and all that. And it was probably more on the off chance going to Highlands College. When I left school, I was lucky enough to get the apprenticeship at Ormer, which was a new restaurant, Sean Mankin. Moved from Bohemia, and he started Ormer. So I was lucky enough to get accepted into there as an apprenticeship. And alongside that, obviously go to college. So I did the college 1 day a week. And I just, started this incredible sort of journey at Ormer in this fine dining restaurant, which is completely alien to, you at that age. Prior to that, I did a few months at Longueville Manor under Andrew Baird.
Oh, I didn't know that you worked at Longueville Manor.
Yeah, so left school at 16, did that, and then, joined Ormer on the apprenticeship. So that was, Longueville Manor, was probably my first experience in kitchens, in terms of sort of fine dining kitchens. Did that for just over a month. And then, started straight at Ormer. Worked in the fish market for 2 years.
Well, that was prior to.
Yeah, so it was probably fish market, Longueville Manor, and then started with Ormer. So I started as an apprenticeship there, and just sort of that just led on. Certainly for the first 3 years, well, certainly for the first year with college, it was just an introductory period, getting used to sort of living in the adult world, with sort of adults working, making a living, studying, and all that. And that sort of led on for the last 10 years.
Yeah, obviously Ormer turned into Samphire, and then there were a lot of changes, and we had Lee, the head chef that we both worked with. He was an amazing guy. I mean, at least from my perspective, he was. I probably wouldn't have been there for longer than a month if it was just to work with Sean. He wasn't my favorite. So, and that's the reason why I actually left. But Michelin Star, it was more of a like tick that box for me. I knew that I'm not going to do it for a long period of time, and I do have a lot of respect for you continuing. I mean, although you move into, it's not Michelin Star anymore, but it's still high level restaurant. It's 3 rosettes now. Is it 3 or 2?
It's a good question. I think it's 3. I think that came through end of last year, but it's not something I worry about too much. It's
I mean, I know for people that don't understand, how hard it is to not just obtain a star or obtain some rosettes. It's the journey of keeping them in time. So that's another one. And
I think what's important as well, it's a journey to get to that point, to build the kitchen up, to build the team, to build, the attitudes of each member of staff, even through the, kitchen porters and part-time chefs, to build that up, to get you, enable you to be in a position to obtain that star is, I think, possibly the hardest bit, as well as maintaining it. But to get ready to be knocking out every single thing that goes out that kitchen, every single invoice you read, every single, plate you clean, it's all for that Michelin star, or for that sort of, idea to obtain it. It's tricky. It's not certainly not easy. I think in the beginning I was naive because I didn't know anything. I was just, for me, it was more, I'm moving out into the adult world and working. It wasn't so much to do with Michelin or necessarily to do with food at the beginning. It was just, I'm working, and I was working with all these 35-year-olds with a wealth of experience in drinking, partying, cooking, traveling and all that. And so that was a big eye opener to me in the first year. And, as I'm sure you're probably aware, it forced me to grow up very, very fast.
Oh yeah, especially. I mean, I remember at the time, because I keep in touch with Alex, one of your chefs, and I wasn't surprised. I was happy for you. I mean, I was really happy for you, honestly, when I heard that you're gonna take over, because it was a big responsibility, and it must have been how many years ago? 3 years ago?
4 years.
4 years. Oh wow. Yeah, 4 years ago, and you moved directly from. Sorry, was it second chef?
I think I was junior sous.
Oh, you were junior sous.
Junior sous, borderline sous. What the difference and all that. Sometimes there's not too much in it, but I was sort of junior level of that sous chef role, sort of any sort of management. And I think it was a sort of joint decision within the business that they were willing to give the opportunity to us.
Yeah.
And I was willing to say, I'm ready to work as hard, if not harder, than I've worked the last few years.
It was a wise decision, no question about it, because you were there for longest. I mean, I think you were there from right at the beginning of Ormer, if I'm not, or kind of.
I started 4 months after Ormer opened, so it's not quite.
More or less,
beginning of it. But I also don't think it's how long someone's been there for. I think, it was a massive gamble, giving a 20, 21-year-old the opportunity to, run that business. It's not only run that kitchen, it's run that business. Or sort of co-run that business. So it was a gamble, and it could have gone either way, because it certainly hasn't been easy. But for me, it was a new challenge, and it was, I've always found I need a challenge to, I get bored quite quickly in terms of if I'm not working towards something or haven't got something that, gets me up in the morning and keeps me excited, whether that's food or management or whatever. I get a bit complacent. So I think it was that natural next step for me, sort of to move forward.
How do you keep your staff excited? Because obviously it's one thing. Sorry, I'm losing my voice here. So obviously it's one thing being excited yourself, but having other people, because the job of a head chef is not just cooking. I mean, most people think, that you're at the pass, you plating, your day is done and you're going home and your worries are kind of like out of the way. But how do you keep your staff motivated and excited about this journey?
It's something that's proved a lot more difficult, I think, the last few years. I think constant menu changes and constant developments within the business, enabling the business to move forward, but also each chef and each member of staff to develop. That's probably the biggest thing. Encouraging them to eat out and travel. Aiding them eating out and traveling, taking them out for sort of dinners and lunches and just to experience other chefs, other techniques, other restaurants, other ways of serving it. Because it's very easy to do one thing one way and just for the rest of your sort of career or the, few years you're cooking, just doing everything that way. And it's, so it's very good to see another way or other ways of doing stuff to get that sort of variety. People aren't as inclined to, to travel and eat out as much as I certainly would like them to. I've offered to take people out for lunches to just say, let's go here, let's experience this chef or this style because it's really fucking cool. And they're just not fussed, it's like, so there's not much more you can do. So in terms of the kitchen, I think just keeping good morale, good excitement in terms of what we're doing on that day. Or that week, menus, functions, we do a lot of sort of different menus for different events, which allows us to play around with new stuff, maybe try new dishes or use ingredients that we say wouldn't normally use. But, it is difficult. It's hard to keep people's motivation up, especially with the long hours and the stress and all that. But, you can only do so much.
Yeah, definitely can see a good shift. And probably not just in your case, but in your situation quite a bit actually, because obviously we are both following like on social media, and I can see pictures with you taking the guys and going and try different things and trying to kind of like form a team, which it's not something that I've seen that much in the past, or at least in my experience, or not in every place I've been. It was more of a like, oh, this is a job, you got to do the job. I don't care how much you're going to work, but you got to work for me, and you know you're going to get paid if you're going to get paid extra hours. But if not, yeah, you're here to work. And I can see a shift. And even last time we met at the opening of the restaurant in St. Aubin, you were saying that, you know, you got to treat people well. What's the difference between now and when you started? Because I honestly think there is a difference. Although I'm not working now in hospitality, I can see a shift with young generation like you, like head chefs, that, you know, have a different mindset, and they're not the old school Gordon Ramsay that will kind of like shout every single day, and people will just hate being there. So what would you think? What would you say is the difference? Like how everything changed in time, and for people probably that don't understand. Even I'm sure when you started, and I remember a few experiences at Ormer. Like, how was that time comparing to this time? Do you see any difference?
I think there's certainly a bit of a stigma and facade about chefs, and about especially what I would call the old generation of chefs. And it's certainly changed. I would probably have put it on 4 or 5 years ago. There was a big change and a big visible transition into how kitchens are run, how people are treated, how, you know, people communicated with each other, whether that was, you know, head chef to commis chef, or, you know, sous chef to sous chef. The industry, I think, like a lot of people know, has changed massively. Likewise, you know, everybody's lives have changed massively in the last, you know, 5 years with COVID, Brexit. It's become a very different sort of way of life now. But in terms of kitchen, attitudes, people's attitudes are just not where they used to be. The sort of general attitude of, I don't really care, I don't really want to work, I want, you know, the most money possible, and I want to do as little as possible. And I do understand that in the way we are in life now, but I also believe you're not going to get anywhere in life without pushing yourself, pushing what you're doing, you know, working that bit harder. So yeah, attitudes is the main one. I think the will to work, so people's work ethic has, you know, completely been lost. But it's tricky because it's the way I think the whole island and the whole industry's evolving. So people's attitudes are, you know, they are going to change.
It was really fun. I remember like working with you guys, and we had some great group. Although I wasn't there for 7 months, maximum 8 months. I think I can't even remember how much I spent at Ormer. And I remember even the times when we went to college and both together, and we were both going with one knife. We had
scars and burns and everything.
And one knife between two of us, kind of like sharing a knife together. It was fun, but yeah, we didn't really take extremely serious college. It was almost impossible after doing like 60 hours or how many hours we were doing at the time, or even more than that, and then going to college and someone expect from us to take that extremely seriously.
I think it was hard as well, because like when I was at college, I was doing, just for example, you do so much in a day at work, and you'd go to college and you spend 2.5 hours or 2 hours, you know, learning or being shown how to fill a place, a fish. And it was like, I don't know, for me it just didn't balance well. Like college didn't back up what I was doing at work.
Didn't bring it to the next level.
No, and work was, you know, wasn't backing up what I was doing at college. I felt I was sort of here with work, and college was just a bit of a chore, you know, alongside the paperwork. And, you know, of course you're working with a variety of students and attitudes and personalities. I just didn't gel well to it. I didn't also believe the sort of curriculum as per at college was necessarily the right way to teach, you know, young kids how to cook and about the industry. Like, you know, education, I think there's a lot of things that could be, you know, rejigged and done in a slightly more modern way.
Do you think that that's why the industry suffers, because we don't have exciting schools, you know, for different jobs? I mean, I'm talking hospitality in particular, because we've been through that college, and to be completely frank with you, what I learned and what probably helped me the most was just like the hygiene part and all the all the bacterias and all that, you know, kind of like how not to kill people.
The classroom stuff,
yeah. So that was the part I think which was really helpful, and I'm like, I find this helpful. Cooking, Not that much. I mean, whenever I think about college, although there were parts, that I really enjoyed as a group, and I'm sure like some of the teachers did their best. It was the part that I remember the microwave cooking. That made me laugh a lot. It was literally a whole part of like, oh, we need to learn.
There was a whole
microwave
section
cooking.
of how to cook in a microwave, wasn't
Yeah.
there? Which I think people would be quite shocked to hear. Not that anyone does that in restaurants.
Yeah.
Well, certainly not in any restaurants I've worked in. But no, I mean, we support the college massively. I support the college massively. I think they do an incredible job. I think the 4 lecturers up there do an amazing job. They've all got fantastic chef backgrounds.
Yeah.
That wasn't said, to them. It was more the curriculum and what
they are
what
kind
has
of
to
forced
be
to teach certain things that probably even they don't believe in.
Exactly.
Yeah, I agree.
It's
Because the chefs are not bad. It's not a question about it. I mean, most of them work at really high
levels, and they're great people, and it's a great place to be. I think so. I don't think it's anything to do with the schools or what's offered over here. I think it's just the sort of industry on a whole. I mean, I think a lot of people go into it from school because it's the last option. I don't think they regard hospitality as an industry. I think they regard it as just a job to get by, to earn a bit of money, or I don't know what else to do.
Yeah.
I need to cook my beans on toast and pasta for my dinner every night. I may as well do the cooking show. it's a bit of fun in a kitchen, frying an egg and
probably most of the people we know, I mean, me included, I'm not in hospitality anymore, but most of the people we know and we studied with it in the college, they're not cooking anymore. They're not in professional environment anymore. And I know, a ton more that done college prior or after. And that's probably a general kind of story in all sorts of industries, but especially in this one, because I talked to Peter Brewer last time and we had this conversation. I'm like, there are tons of chefs here in Jersey, but they just don't work in the industry. So they're like really good guys that could literally take their like shirt and jacket, suit, and then just move in the kitchen and just cook an amazing dish, but they chose to do a different job. So it's a shame. It doesn't seem to last too long.
I just think it's tricky because a lot of people say to me now, is like, they say, how are we going to change this? How are we going to, and I'm going, someone said the other day, businesses need to pay more. That's fine. But businesses have, a load of expenses to cover, very high rent in Jersey. They've got Tuesday nights where people don't go out. There's not that drinking culture in certain months, and they don't want to go out and spend 40, 80 pound a head on dinner for their family, for their kids. They want to cook at home. Well, they're taking advantage of all these home, cooking takeaway sort of options. So I get that. It's not a case of just paying people more. I cannot believe the price. I can't believe what some people get paid to do jobs over here within hospitality. It's just absurd, and I can't believe some businesses are doing it or paying it because it's not sustainable. And I know that for a fact. That's not an opinion of mine. I know it's just not doable. You can maybe do it and scrape by for a year, but it is just not sustainable.
It's not going to do it.
And then you're also pushing all the wages within the industry up into this sort of unobtainable level, similar to maybe the housing prices. I've heard people, sort of associate it with. The other thing is, hours. It's like, yes, as a business, we can reduce staff's hours, which I think a lot of people have do, straight shifts instead of split shifts, knocking them 5-10 hours down a week. But again, the fundamental fact is people want to eat breakfast, lunch and dinner, and especially dinner. And people don't want to eat at 5-6 o'clock. The culture, like in big cities and London, and they want to eat later. So, open a restaurant, have chefs that finish at 8-9 o'clock. Yeah, it's not really doable. So there's only so much I think you can do to change it. At the end of the day, that is the job, that is the sort of hours. As long as you work, fairly, and I think you give your staff opportunities to have weekends off, to have evenings off, and you do that part as a business to sort of take the responsibility and make sure you've got enough staff, for example, so that 1 in 5 weekends, each member of staff can have, a Saturday off for. And it's so important. It's, about morale, and I mean, it's just fair, isn't it? And I think the more you treat your staff with fairness, and the more, you prove you're doing that and making the effort, I think the more respect you have, because a lot of it is down to, respect.
Yeah, and I totally agree. And then what some people don't understand, it's, if you want to do most of it in-house, like the cooking, the prep and all that, it takes time. Like how long it takes to reduce the stock from like a big pot to a jus, and people sometimes don't even appreciate it. It's just like, what's this?
So we've had dishes on the menu before. They take 2.5 days, 3 days to get that piece of meat or that dish on the plate. And people don't realise that. And to be honest, people don't need to realise it because that's not their job.
Yeah.
I don't want people coming into the restaurant thinking, oh, the poor chefs, they've been there all day. There is an element of, I think, being a little bit firm about it. We're there to do a job. We do it very well. It's my responsibility, the business responsibility, to make sure that the staff are treated fairly, they get paid what they should get paid, and they have, the appropriate time off. As long as we do that, I don't need the customers going, oh, this has taken so long. Come in, pay for your meal and enjoy your meal. That's all we want, and we get satisfaction, out of that. Like I think every business owner and head chef, restaurant manager does.
What's because you kind of like numbered a few of the duties of a head chef just along this conversation, but for people that don't really understand what's going on in a professional kitchen, what's your job other than cooking? And probably this you'll apply to many other chefs, but for someone that doesn't understand exactly how it works, because as we talked earlier, the head chef is not just the person that's at the pass and it's swiping a few purées and it's serving, and after that it'll be like, guys, clean the kitchen, I'm out. It doesn't really work that way, although some people do it. I would be, we all know.
We all know that.
Yeah, we all know. Like some people do it that way, but yeah, it's what other responsibilities do you have as a head chef to make sure that everything runs smoothly?
I think going back to what you said before, it very much depends on the person you are and the attitude you have towards the business, the industry, or your personal career. Obviously, you get some people doing 100%. You get, as you say, some people, they'll come in for service, do service and leave after service and sort of leave. I think it also depends how big the business is, how many places there are. There's a line between exec chef and head chef, which I think exec chef is normally more for multiple places. So they oversee a sort of group or multiple restaurants. So they will do a lot more office-based stuff, and then they will have a head chef in each of them restaurants or sort of places. In terms of what I do, cooking obviously is a big part of it. It's becoming less and less a part of it now. The actual sort of cooking the food. Spend a lot of time on the pass, running the service, alongside the sous chef and the sort of junior sous, senior chef to parties. We're quite sort of proud to say we give everyone the opportunity to do every section in the kitchen, including the pass, or trying to push the sort of more senior members of staff to run the pass and have that opportunity to run the service as well. Paperwork is a massive part of it. A couple of hours a day on the computer. We do a lot of sort of HACCP, which is health and safety, hazard control, and that gets done a lot by, again, the sort of junior management. So sort of the senior members of the kitchen will take on that so that they can be sort of consistent and used to that side of it. Staffing, employing staff, lots of interviews, lots of tricky conversations, managing staff. Working very closely with a lot of suppliers over here, trying to keep a good and build a good relationship with them, and then just day-to-day running of the business, not so much the kitchen but the business. So whether that's getting kitchen equipment inspected or restaurant equipment inspected, insurance stuff, all that sort of boring stuff that's probably in the back of a business, just a lot of that sort of stuff. I've always sort of said it, the day-to-day running of a business, all that sort of backside of it is what takes up a lot of time. But it's important for me as well to give opportunities to other members of staff to push, them, because at the end of the day, they're the future of of the restaurant, and if they can be the best they can be and have the best opportunities, then I'd like to think that in years to come, they're going to sort of invest that back into the business as sous chefs, head chefs, stuff like that, and restaurant staff included.
Yeah, that's a lot. It's a lot behind the scenes that it's not that romantic, I would say, because I worked a very short, well, I can't remember how many months, up to a year anyway. It wasn't more than a year, that's for sure, as a head chef. And it was like, wow, there is so much. You need to worry about budgets. You need to worry about not just, the cooking part was the easiest one. I mean, that was the part that we were like kind of having fun. But yeah, other things, going into meetings, explaining this, explaining that, suppliers, as you said. But going back to suppliers, how do you keep the constant flow of ingredients, to kind of sustain this consistency, of whatever you need? So how do you get this? Because we are on an island, and it's harder and harder, obviously, finding ingredients or whatever you want to find these
across
days.
the board, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, it's difficult on Jersey. It really is. And, I can happily say I'm very jealous of, people working in London in terms of availability and sort of accessibility with a lot of produce. You've got to be patient. You need a lot of patience. And just, you need to be persistent. It's, if you want a good ingredient or a quality ingredient, you've got to work for it. You've got to push for it. You've got to be willing to pay for it, for a lot of stuff. And that's something we've seen a lot recently, is the price has just skyrocketed on a lot of stuff. Even the local stuff, the price has gone up quite considerably. It's hard in terms of, you say, being on an island, the boat services. It's, I think the last 4 days has been cancelled.
Wow.
That's just this week. And, we've had, and I know for suppliers' point of view, they've had pallets and pallets of perishable goods, cheese and stuff sat in France, not being able to be brought over. So that has an effect on them, which then obviously has an effect on us. We've got to be flexible. We've really got to be flexible. And in terms of sort of suppliers, I try to see my 8 main suppliers on a weekly basis. We're always on the phone. Phone's always going off, in the morning, texts, phone calls, because I always ask them to be sort of communicative with me. And even if it's just something little, let us know. Let's keep that communication up, and we could, benefit both of us. So yeah, just, staying friendly with them. Try not to argue too much or get too annoyed. But communication is the big one.
Is still the way you place orders via phone, or you moved to online by now?
We can email orders. We phone the majority of orders, and there's a couple of apps available, so you can dial in on a computer or phone, and you can place the order on an app, which is good in a lot of senses, because it's all visible there. You can check stocks and all that. But yeah, it's never straightforward.
Yeah, I left right at the time when they started implementing these, and then I was okay with it. I mean, no matter what, you kind of like need to move with the technology the same way we order a lot of stuff from Amazon. If they kind of make it easier, kind of in the same way, why not? I wasn't kind of like, oh, this is gonna be so bad for us. There were a few people in the kitchen. I'm like, calm down. You do these orders all the time on Amazon. It's exactly the same thing. I mean, obviously, if they make it, as user friendly. But yeah, I think it moved back then to the phone, because there were quite a few people that were like, oh, you know what? This is not.
I mean, yeah, there's always going to be issues, technology and that, and it does prove to be a pain sometimes. But again, it's patience and persistence. And yeah, you get there. There's a lot of companies, a lot of businesses over here now moving forward with that sort of stuff. And it is, I mean, the end goal is to make it easier for them, and for the customers, which is us. But yeah, I mean, in terms of getting the stock is another thing.
Can restaurants live from local produces and ingredients and be like full stop? Is there such a thing? Because like there are people thinking that, in my opinion, it can be done. I mean, it's almost impossible. I mean, we have potatoes, we have milk, and then kind of combine the two and then make the most of it.
You say like Amazon, for example. I use Amazon for probably 1% of orders for the restaurant. Although Amazon's fantastic, prices are good. We use it occasionally, but I'm saying to suppliers all the time, can you get me this? I really need this. I will use it for the year, and I can tell you 2 other restaurants that will use it. But there's some of the businesses are tied to what they can buy, and they've also got to make a profit. They've also got to make it worth it. Now they've got a warehouse, yes, but it's full to the brim with a lot of stuff. They get condor deliveries or overseas deliveries twice a day sometimes, some of them. every single day, 5-6 days a week. So for them to bring in a very, very small ingredient or a couple of packets of this, it's not necessarily doable. So it does make it a lot more difficult to stock sort of not the normal stuff, if that makes sense. If we want to use some different fruit, from halfway across the world, or some different spices, you do have to normally find it yourself. I think purely just because Jersey being the size it is.
Yeah. But you try to use mainly local ingredients. Is that the aim?
It is. I mean, sometimes the quality is just not there, and I'll be honest. A lot of people disagree with me or say, it's not all about that, but the consistency and the quality is not always there. You may get, for example, 5 stunning red mullet on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. For the next 3 weeks, you can't get a single fish. Or the sizes are a big thing as well. So if we pay a couple of pound a kilo more, we can get perfect graded fish from the UK, and especially restaurants like Samphire. It's what people expect,
Yeah.
We can't be getting away with, farmed sea bass fillets that are, 4 or 5 mil thick. So yeah, we try to buy as much as possible, and we do have some fantastic, for the size we have some incredible produce like strawberries, asparagus, rhubarb, for example, just to name 3. Duck eggs, free range chicken eggs. We have some of the best eggs, all over the UK that are, locally produced over here. Fish used to be incredible. I remember fishing and diving.
Yeah, you used to work actually.
Yeah, of course. But I remember fishing and diving myself. And when I first started sort of diving, we would, we'd on an easy 40 minutes under the water, we would have 10 plaice, Dover sole, a couple of crabs, and a bag of scallops. I went 4 years ago, and we were lucky to get 1 or 2 plaice and half a dozen scallops. Oh, wow. And just from doing that myself, I can see the impact of whatever the causes are. That the fish just aren't here anymore. The sizes aren't here anymore. The breeding's not here anymore. And then with obviously everything else that's happening, fishermen, for example, aren't. It's not sustainable or profitable for them to go out and spend 8 hours in the rain, the pissing wet, the winds, the dangerous sort of conditions, to be lucky enough to come back with half a box of fish that they can then sell on for 30 quid, that the merchants can then sell on for 65 quid for us to buy, and then we sell that on. So it's a very difficult sort of market. Hence why everyone is spending a lot of money buying from the UK. The dairy over here again is fantastic. We've seen some big price increases. Yesterday was another one, 15%.
Wow.
Which is again the climate we're in now. It's a big jump. But if we want them to stick around and still be producing such a good product for such a small island, we need to be willing to pay them prices. Whether we absorb half that cost and implement that on our menus, or sort of selling that forward, you just got to do it. It's, but yeah, no. Certainly in terms of like local growers and local producers over here, we've got a very good sort of network of Jersey produce. The Jersey beef is starting to make a bit of a scene.
Is that enough? Because I remember when I was working, it was always like a fight between like 4 or 5 restaurants over Jersey beef.
There's not enough to supply everyone. Not everyone will want to buy it at all. Okay. I don't think it's found its place in the market yet to be the product it needs to be, or it could be. I think that will come because it's a fantastic product, but as a sort of selling point, it's all not there. Some cuts are better than others. Again, the consistency in terms of maturity and size is not there. I was
going to say, I remember it was literally like a fried egg. It was literally you put a hand on it and it would fall apart because it wasn't matured enough.
I remember the ribeyes. They used to be 2 or 3 times the size of that, as opposed to 6 or 7.
Mm-hmm.
They were tiny. The bigger cuts, like sort of the shin, part of the leg, the short rib, brisket, all that was fantastic. All sort of braising cuts, just cuts of meat you'd cook for a lot longer, for stews and pies and that, were fantastic. They had a beautiful fat on, they're really nice and tender, nice marbling. But then the fillets and ribeyes and the primer cuts that people would expect, more so going out for dinner and certainly high-end restaurants, they weren't there up to consistency. The price was also high because they weren't producing a lot. So for businesses, for restaurants, it just was a no-brainer. We just had to go with the UK stuff, the French stuff, the Irish stuff, especially in terms of beef. But it's certainly getting there. I think they've changed. There's a couple of places north of the island that have certainly changed the way they're doing it and producing it. So I think hopefully the next couple of years we'll see more on the menu. Pigs are the same. To get the Jersey pork has been fantastic, but it's hit and miss. They'll turn around the next week and say, "Oh, we're not slaughtering this week," so we won't be able to provide any. So it's very difficult to run a consistent restaurant, and obviously consistency being such a big part of I think restaurants and hospitality, it does make it difficult solely buying from Jersey.
Do you think because the way I see it as well, it's customers are kind of making this journey quite hard as well, because everybody wants fillet steak, everybody wants ribeye steak and sirloin steak, but they kind of they wouldn't try different parts of the animal cooked to perfection sometimes, because you guys know what you're doing.
I fight about this all the time, and for people that know me, they know I hate the Jersey market. I hate the attitudes in Jersey, and I hate the way we sort of are. We're so behind the UK, which is normal, which is fine. But
you mean open to new? And
yeah, no one's interested in new stuff. People, as you say, I just want a fillet steak. Do you know what I mean? And it's fuck's sake, come on. You're at one of the best restaurants on the island or wherever. Try something new. Something else that gets me. People will eat meat and they go, "It's chewy." This is chewy. It's not chewy. You're eating muscle. You're eating a piece of meat from an animal, from a working animal. It's gonna have some bite to it. You can't expect every piece of meat you put in your mouth at a fine dining restaurant to be like butter. Yes, fillet steak is tender. We all like it in a certain degree for that reason. But it's I wish people gave, especially restaurants, a better chance in terms of trying new stuff. And we've done it. We do it a lot. And I have there's a great couple called Leighton and Gabby who own Jade Fisheries. So they're fishermen and fish wholesalers now. And we have a discussion all the time about, in the season, there's an abundance of grey mullet over here. And it's a fifth of the price of sea bass.
And it's not extremely huge difference.
No.
Most people wouldn't really know.
Most people wouldn't know, chefs included, honestly, especially if it's been battered or, sort of...
Once you add some lemon there, a bit of time, see you later.
And it's a beautiful fish, but I've tried using pollock included whiting, putting it on the menu. And, I've had 80-year-old ladies come in and go, "We used to eat this in the war, This used to be given to us as I don't expect to be coming to a restaurant like this and being served, serve this for a fair price, and a nice piece of fish." We were buying 10 pound plus fish, they were nearly a metre long, so they had a really nice thickness, loads of moisture in, and we were cooking them beautifully and doing some really nice stuff with them. People just see that word, mullet or pollock and they just won't order it. This whole posh fish and chip phase. Do you remember all the restaurants were putting posh fish and chips on, and they were battering turbot and lemon sole and Dover sole?
Such a crime.
It's mad. It really is.
With such a fine fish, like turbot, you wouldn't really. I mean, extreme situation, you probably deep fry, but let's be honest, it's got so many other better ways of cooking than deep frying it.
It's frustrating, and then the market is just the market for turbot and cod. I mean, everyone knows cod's a prime example. We've all seen the documentaries on it.
Yeah.
The market is the cod or the turbot market is absolutely hammered because people want this and expect this. Being forced to buy small thin turbot, it's just not what we want to do. Where you can get beautiful brill or halibut and stuff like that. But I had a comment the other day about what do they want? I think it was something like halibut. Halibut's not posh enough.
Wow.
Something like that. Halibut. I mean, come on. It's mad. So I think, perceptions are a big thing. I would love to change them. I don't think any one person or any one business is going to be able to change perceptions. You're going to have people open to it. and you can have a lot of people who aren't, and a lot of people that will come around. But I think time is probably the best thing.
Would you say that this is kind of, I mean, I really appreciate that you're trying to do that, because it's something that most people just kind of work with the flow. Are these kind of like 5-10 dishes that work well? We're going to continue this in different shapes or forms, just kind of like adapt them, change garnish here and there, and just continue with that. Business is booming. See you later. But do you think that this is anyone's duty as a head chef to try to educate people? Because I think that that's a bit of education part in here as well, to show them that it can be done otherwise. You think this is?
I think massively, yeah. But I also think it depends on, the business. You own a cafe or a restaurant which is targeted to kids and families. You're not gonna be trying to push grey mullet and pollock on them, or cheaper cuts of beef, done differently. Likewise, I'm not gonna walk out into my restaurant and educate people on how they should eat a steak and what it should be like, and actually you need to enjoy that chewier steak more than that one. That's not my place. It's not my place to do. It's also not our place to tell people they should be eating that and they shouldn't be. And at the end of the day, and this is the sort of, it all boils down to that, we're not doing this for fun. We've got a business to run. We've got targets to hit, and we've got staff to pay. So if that means sucking it up and putting turbot on the menu, or sucking it up and putting fish and chips on the menu, that's what we're going to do. If we're going to sell 20 of them over one bavette steak, unfortunately, we're going to go with the stuff that sells and the stuff that people want, because I'm not going to piss all the customers off. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then also, at Samphire, we do a lot of event nights. We do a lot of charity stuff. We do a lot of stuff like that. I'd say quite considerable. Whether that's something fun for the staff. We talked about motivating staff before. We did a champagne dinner end of last year. This year we're hoping to do a sort of sustainable fish event, a truffle event towards the end of the year when we've got all these beautiful truffles. So we do lots of stuff like that. We also have different menus throughout the year. Valentine's coming up, for example. We're running a special menu through the month. We've got a tasting dinner on the 14th for dinner. So that enables us to do different stuff. Possibly we'd get different clients in, different customers would be coming in, slightly older group or younger. So that gives us the opportunity to have fun and use stuff possibly we wouldn't normally use. For example, a different fish or certainly a different cut of meat. So we do quite a lot of that, which gives us that opportunity to, to be sort of diverse.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Although, in the menu, you'll be adding stuff that obviously does well because it's a business in the end. But it's something to appreciate that you also try to add things, that might not do that well, or something that is new. So people kind of understand, oh, by the way, it can be done otherwise. There are other options. You don't have to go for sea bass all the time. You don't have to go for a fillet of beef all the time. So that's something to appreciate. Now, staying on the topic of food, which will continue. Is there something that you like cooking? Is something that you hate cooking? Do you have something like that?
I love every food. I love everything. I don't think there's anything I don't really like. I don't like oysters on a wet day. I don't like eating oysters when it's raining.
But it's more of like the cooking part.
Cooking side, no. I mean, Asian food. I love eating Asian food. I love cooking Asian food. Sort of Southeast Asia. Sort of that sort of range is probably my favourite, but I love everything. Love eating everything, cooking everything. There's nothing I sort of don't really enjoy cooking. I mean, there's certain jobs in the kitchen I would probably not be upset if I never had to do again. But no, apart from that, I sort of, on the whole, it's...
Is there certain food or certain restaurants that you like to see in Jersey that we don't have at the moment?
Asian restaurants.
So more of that, yeah? Better level Asian restaurant or diversity?
I think, better level. I don't mean more expensive or, posher. I just mean...
Street food kind of style?
Just a better quality of food, Someone in the kitchen who knows what they're doing, who's not afraid to do something a bit different. Or I think we've got some fantastic restaurants over here, but I don't think they're in abundance. I think there's some brilliant ones dotted about, but I think we also lack a level of consistency is a big one, and I think just a sort of level of quality, in terms of what's on the plate. And I know that's difficult because we're in a bit of a staffing crisis, with obviously what's happened the last few years. It's not easy, but I do hope that in a few years the level of food will sort of get a little bit higher over here. More restaurants will open that will be doing more diverse stuff, at better quality, or more importantly, a better consistency. Whether that's a street food cafe or a big 200 cover restaurant. But then I do understand that it's about running a business and making a successful business, and you can't just pull £250,000 out from somewhere to just do something fun or different. So I do sort of appreciate that side of it as well.
Will we see Tom opening a restaurant any soon or in the future, like Asian maybe?
Maybe.
Would you like to have your own place? I mean, I'm not saying that you need to give me a straight answer. That
5 years ago, 6 years ago, 8 years ago, all I wanted to do was have my own place, do what I wanted, and just have this, this really, really cool restaurant. Now I probably wouldn't say that. I think things have changed so much, not necessarily for good, for the better. I think things have changed so much that I think it's become a lot more unattractive to own your own restaurant. Staffing is probably the biggest thing. The expenses, the high overhead costs, the initial startup, but also, the first 5 years. I think it's become a lot more, a lot more tricky to do, especially, if you don't have the backing or, the financial sort of backing. We'll see.
Okay, yeah, it's kind of like it's an open kind of answer. Yeah, so maybe yes, maybe no, depending on the circumstances. But how do you see, like, coming back to the staffing problems, because that's probably the one which is the biggest issue of these days. How do we get out of this? Do you see a good end out of this, or is it going to be a constant struggle over the next years? What should we do, in your opinion? Is there something that we can do?
I think businesses just need to make it as attractive as possible for people to work. Really take time to look at hours, pay, work conditions, stuff like that. We talked motivation before, keeping the teams motivated, whether it's kitchen and front or, the whole team as a business. I don't know what more there is that can be done. I think it's an element of just seeing how the next few years pan out. Brexit has obviously hit the industry, but also the island very hard. I hope it's going to stay attractive for people to get into coming from school, and leaving education and finding work. And I think if we do our part by putting the training there, the skills there, the opportunities there, then I think it certainly will get better. I think also as Jersey, if they can, work as hard as possible to get, these opportunities for people from overseas, to come over and train over here or work over here, even if it's for just a time period. But that, again, has proved very difficult unless you have plenty of accommodation to do that. It's a lot of work to get one person over here. So I think that's something where Jersey, in terms of the states and the government, can come in and do their part to make that a little bit more accessible.
Yeah, I mean, Brexit hit really bad, especially this industry, that it can't really afford like a big firm, that's here in financial services to offer the salaries, probably even situations when they offer accommodation. Even if they don't have their own, they could kind of like pay for that person. So it's hard.
It's just not a thing anymore of people working somewhere for their CV or because they really like the food, or that was a massive thing or certainly when I started, when we worked together.
I worked for free in quite a few places.
You do, and it was a thing to do. You would gain the experience, and you'd work for a head chef or a business that you really respected and you really liked, and they were kicking out some really, cool food, or they were just a good business model, and you'd work your way up, and it doesn't seem to be a thing anymore. People leaving college, scrolling down for a sous chef position. Because it's madness. So no, I don't know how we're going to come out of that. We'll see. I think everyone does their part, and we just see. But there is also an element of just sucking it up, getting on with it, doing what you do, because there's only so many conversations you can have about staffing and Brexit, and it's.
Yeah. If you think too much about it, you better
Yeah,
kind of like close the place
down.
down.
You've got to get on with it. That's something we've done at Samphire last year, especially, was just okay. This is where we're at. This is what we got to deal with. Let's just adapt and deal with it in the best way possible. And I stuffed my kitchen up last year more than ever, not in terms of members of staff, but just in terms of building it to get it where it needs to be. Because I know we may have another bumpy year ahead. And I don't want to worry about that. I want to know I can trust my guys, and the kitchen can run itself, allowing me to to do other stuff and plan for the years to come and work on sort of other opportunities.
Yeah, talking about experience, and obviously, as I said, we both work, for pretty much no money at the beginning, or for free. Yeah. And probably you even more than me, because I remember you were doing this apprenticeship. That it was an absolute kind of like, not scam because it was legal, but it was like below the minimum wage, if I remember well. But you still kept going, which kudos to you. And then you got into this amazing position. Do you have any mentors, or do you have chefs that be like, okay, this is the person I learned the most from, or this is the person that I respect the most, or this is the person I follow? I want to be like that. Do you have people like that?
Not so much now in terms of following someone or wanting to be, like them. The original team when I started at Ormer, I'd probably owe all my sort of gratitude to. The team there, including Sean, Lee, the two sous chefs, and the rest of the team. It was, they, like I said before, I grew up seriously fast. I had to fit in there and to sort of adapt and stay there. I had to grow up, in terms of personality as well as, learning. You had to learn very, very fast. So they were massive mentors, every single one of them, throughout the first sort of 5-6 years of my career. All of them, it was whether that was outside of work or inside of work. In terms, there's restaurants I love and chefs, James Close at Raby Hunt. I think it's a fantastic sort of business model. I think they're a fantastic chef model, and him and sort of his wife who work in the kitchen and own the place themselves. It's, it's a great sort of look up for them, to them, sorry. But there's no one I would say I sort of, aspire to be like. No.
Do you have places here that you like? Like, what will be your top 3 restaurants here in Jersey that would be like, what? Because that's whenever people ask me these kind of questions, I have a hard time to give them an answer because things change all the time. There is not
consistency.
Well, there's not. I mean, you guys, you kind of kept, places. The way I know how to recommend the places, whether they kind of like keep their stuff. Whether a head chef or sous chef, they kind of have a structure, that's been there for a long period of time. And you guys did that. So that's one of the places, but there are not many that they do that. So how do you...
So I do think consistency, I know I keep going on about it, but it's such an important part. You look at a business model, for example, McDonald's, they are so consistent with every single thing they do.
You know what you get?
It's the reason they, I do put it down, it's the reason they've got a multi-million-pound empire, because it's consistency. Yes, they offer a great product and what they do is nice, but it is just a burger at the end of the day. But they've got every element of that burger, including the price and the packaging, correct, and they've stayed consistent. As you say, you know what you're going to get. You know the price is going to change. It doesn't matter who's behind that counter or behind that grill. It's going to be the same, and that's with a lot of franchises, especially with fast food. Restaurants in Jersey, it's a tough question. It's like when people say to me, "What's your favourite thing to eat?" And I say, "Everything."
Yeah,
everything. Honestly, cold Asian salads to sloppy roast dinners.
Yeah, I mean, I know you cook a lot at home, so that might not be.
No, I mean, I love eating out. We used to eat out a lot. We don't so much now because of things have just changed. But my sort of top 3 restaurants. Park House, the Thai at Columbia.
Oh, right, yeah.
Is certainly...
I tried that. I wanted to try, but it was fully booked. This is a small place, so it's if you don't book in.
They're just great, and I just love what they're about. It's like gone to somewhere in Thailand, picked it up and dropped it off. I'm not saying that necessarily works or that's the thing to do, but yeah, what they do is really cool.
I mean, if you want to keep it at that level, like with one and
no, I'm not. I'm not saying it out of like politics or anything. I'm generally, I'm trying. I went to Kyoto. I went to Batana the other night, and that was fantastic. That was really, really good.
Is it Asian? No,
Spanish.
Japanese.
Spanish.
Oh, no. Yeah, you're right. I'm mixing that up.
Batana's the Weighbridge.
Right. Yeah, that's the Spanish one.
Went there, had nearly everything on the menu, and it was very pleasantly surprised with the quality and everything. It was fantastic. It was really, really good. Price was good. It was slightly on the more expensive side. I didn't expect anything different, and I don't think people should, because what you're getting, like a lot of better restaurants,
there are a lot of ingredients that come from all the way from.
Expensive. It's like very, very expensive, and if you want to eat that, it's been cooked fantastically. You want to eat that, you got to pay for it. People over here, I think, are too used to going, oh, it's too expensive. It's the price is too high. It's like, get over it. It's what the price is now. Do you know what I mean? It's can be tricky. So I think certainly if you want that, simple fact, you got to pay for it. So Batana was great. Quayside, never had a bad meal at Quayside. Fantastic wine list. Bollywood Bites, probably the best curry over here.
Yeah, I know. Peter said the same thing. I like Bollywood Bites. Don't
Peter
get me
likes
wrong.
it.
Yeah, Peter likes it. He loves it. It's literally like, that's my favorite place. Full stop. And I like it too. But I always said, that it's good, but it's kind of hard to have a good understanding of Indian food, because I've never been to India to kind of taste authentic and then have. But if it works for you, no matter what, I'm not saying that you need. If you eat Thai, you need to go to Thailand and come back and then have the Thai and then make it.
If you enjoy it,
if it works for you, that's all good. But yeah, I agree. Bollywood Bites, they have a good service. The head chef comes and talks to you, what do you like and all that. I don't know whether it's the best place in Jersey when it comes. Like I had a great meal at Noya Shapla, for example, Indian. But then there was I don't know how long after, it wasn't that great. So I'm like, again, we're coming back to consistency. But
it all boils down to that. I mean, I've had some fantastic meals at places. I've been back 5 times. It's been terrible. Longueville Manor is fantastic. What they do, it's such a stunning place. I think the food's changed there a lot over the last few years. I think a lot of people will agree. I mean, like I said, there's a lot of great restaurants over here. It's just the consistency, I feel, lets it down.
And on this page of consistency, what's your opinion about the Michelin Star Guide? Because obviously that's their biggest thing, consistency. They want to see you doing a quality meal, no matter when, whether it's 12 a.m. or 8 in the morning. They want to see exactly that consistency, the high standards. Is the Michelin Star Guide the same thing as 10 years ago, as 15 years ago?
No.
Yeah.
I don't believe so, no. I think it's changed a lot. Like everything has, not necessarily bad, but it's changed a lot. I think their aims and morals have changed a lot. Not so much the Michelin Guide, but I think what people interpret the Michelin is. Now, I'm not knocking them at all. It's a fantastic company. They've done some incredible stuff, and they've built this empire of fantastic way to eat and travel as well. It's not just eating, traveling. It's been a great thing. Alongside them, I just don't. It's not something I've ever been interested in. I've had some great meals at Michelin awarded places. I've had some terrible meals at Michelin awarded places. I've had some terrible meals at the best restaurants in the world, I've had some incredible meals at restaurants with no accolades at all, who are not interested, who don't, and them meals have been better, them experiences have been better than the places that have, 3 Michelin stars, 5 rosettes, and a window full of sticker awards, I've been really let down by eating in the higher places, the 3 Michelin star, 2 Michelin as well. Been let down, and I've just, I've sort of come to the conclusion that it doesn't mean anything. It's not like, as I said, yes, some of them, are really special and really worth a visit. But I think on the whole, I don't look at it anymore as a, where should I go and eat? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Having said that, I've been one of the best meals of my life was at a 2-star. I just don't feel the Michelin is a sort of good enough rating. They brought out this green star.
It's not complex enough, probably, to
to
rate.
I think it's a bit corrupt and a bit. You have to spend your whole life, as a chef or as a business owner, your whole life or 4 or 5 years of your life doing Michelin and cooking for Michelin and buying plates for Michelin and doing service for Michelin. They say Michelin should, especially the 1st star is just the food.
Yeah.
I'm not sure whether I believe that. And this has nothing to do with my journey or nothing to do with my career. This is other people's opinions and, other people and I'm including people who have been awarded 1 stars and, 2 stars. In the UK and all over the world, they've said the sort of same, and we've had conversations about it. And yes, the recent thing they've done is this green star.
Oh, I didn't know about.
They've released like a green star, and it's for like eco-sustainable restaurants and restaurants that using their waste. And I know 2 restaurants. I know the head chefs very well, and they've been awarded these green stars.
Here in Jersey?
No.
Oh, no, that's what I thought.
No.
It would have been a big news if it was.
Yeah, no, it's not here. And, the only reason, and they will admit this as well, the only reason they've got it is because they've got a garden. And they use the garden for herbs and for, and I'll be frank, it's bullshit. It's really, it's like stupid. Because their wastage is higher than, or
Longueville
some
Manor
of them
is that way because they have a garden.
They
right?
may do, but I mean, what, you want to go to eat somewhere because they got a? It's just
yeah.
So it's not for me. I don't think it gives a fair representation of, sort of restaurant and that. And I think it's gone in the way of being a bit sort of political and a little bit. I don't believe it's true to maybe when it first started. It was all about the food. I don't necessarily think it's like that anymore.
Some chefs can get away with it, with they prepare really good food when they have an inspector, and then the consistency comes kind of goes down the hill between these. Is there such a thing?
Well, I mean, I was always told you don't know when the Michelin inspector's in. 95% of the time, you do know when the Michelin inspector's in because
that's what I'm saying.
Can obvious, you may as well walk in with a flashing light on their head. So yeah, I think it can. I think some restaurants have got so much money. They've got, so much backing from whether it's an investor or the owner's got that much money that they just pour money into this business and it fits that bill of a Michelin star, and if they do a few pretty little dots and a few swirls of, they get it. And I don't think I feel like they should almost reinvent Michelin and sort of scrap it, not scrap everything, but, people work for, they just,
adapt.
They ruin their lives for 5 years to get a Michelin star. And I just don't think it's right. I don't think it's a good business model because they're not it's not profitable to cook for Michelin to do that. It's, and you just work your arse off way more than you should have to and way more than normal. And all your staff are the same. It's a much higher stress environment. You spend a lot more money, and a lot of people, a lot of places are lucky enough to have that expendable cash, but, it's not necessarily true, if that makes sense. I think what a lot of people don't realize.
Would you say that Rosette, the guide, it's in a better place, or they are kind of in the same situation?
I don't really take the notice of either of them, to be honest. I'm sort of like Michelin more than Rosette because I believe it's more to do with the food. I think Rosette is more
experience as a whole.
It's more hotels, and I think it's great for hotels, for the ratings with that. But in terms of restaurants, I don't know. I don't even know what the sort of categories are, or no, I don't take the notice of it really.
Because I find it really weird. Like you have, I don't know now, but I'm sure I've seen in the past, you have restaurants with like 4 rosettes or 3 rosettes, and they don't have a Michelin.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, what's going on here? Because sure, if these guys kind of like believe, that this is a great experience, the others should kind of like notice too.
Mm-hmm.
So I find it kind of weird, that they work in a very different way, or that's my impression.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I mean, it's like me for cooking. I say to the, to the boys at work, it's, if you wanted to go for a Michelin Star, you'd have to change everything you do. And, I said, you wouldn't enjoy coming into work as much. I'd be stressed all, it's not a fun. And for me, cooking's not about that. Cooking's, about a lot more than that. And I think it can be a lot more fun than that. And, at the end of the day, I want to cook what I want to cook. If I want to put aubergine with 3 main courses on the menu, I'll do that. If I want to put, some weird, funky stuff that, we haven't used before just to try it. I want to be able to do that. I want to put on and I want to interpret it how we want, not because, this company says we should, or their guidelines say that we should or should not sort of do this. Or we recommend you don't do that.
Yeah, I totally get it. Yeah, so it makes you a bit more flexible, I guess, and also having a bit of life. And talking about life, how do you balance work with personal life? I mean, it's probably one of the hardest things for chefs.
I don't. I have no personal life. So no, it's a lot easier now because the way the industry's moved. It's become. I've also made it within our business. I've made it crucial that it needs to happen. This, I don't like these terms of not getting a day off, working solid, working all day. Don't get me wrong, when we're busy, sometimes we're there 14, 15 hours a day and we don't have a break, and we're used to it, and we let it pass sometimes, that's fine. But as a business, I ensure that everybody gets their breaks, everybody takes their holidays. We've got to run fair because I expect that respect back, if that makes sense. And I know if I don't do that and I don't play fair, then why should any of the staff respect me or respect the business? And that's such a big thing. It's just balancing it, getting as good a rest as you can, and then but also socializing and doing what you want to do, enough, if that makes sense.
What advice would you give to someone thinking about, and not that many people, we all know, not that many thinking, I want to be a chef, or probably they do for a bit, and then after they just forget about that, and they walk into the finance industry or something like that. But for people that are still willing to join this industry, do you have any advice for
I think it's certainly the most rewarding thing. One of the most rewarding things I've ever done. So I think if you're willing to work hard, and you're willing to push yourself and you're willing to commit, then I think it's an incredible opportunity. But, in terms of advice, you've got to be able to do them 3 things. You've got to be able to want it. There's no point walking into a kitchen, like there's no point walking into any business and just doing it for the sake of it, because you're not going to get anywhere. You're not going to get anywhere, and you're going to be at the point in 10, 20 years time where you've wasted it or you haven't made anything when you could have really pushed. And I wish a few more people, or a lot more people, would push themselves in terms of, in life and what they do, especially sort of with work. They'd push themselves a bit more to be that bit better, because we're all capable of it. These people are, and I try and push my guys as much as I can. Some people you can push a lot more than others, and that's fine. That's cool. It makes everyone individual and, everyone sort of themselves. But I do wish people were a little bit more focused on getting somewhere instead of just thinking, what, fuck it, I don't care. I'm going to, move for another 50p an hour, or, they're going to give me $1,000. So I'm, going to move. It's just, work that little bit harder, and you will, trust me, you'll get a lot further.
Do you think school is needed? Talking about the people kind of being willing to start. Would you say that they need to go through a certain process, or should they just jump straight into the industry and kind of like learn it from there instead of going to college? And I'm not saying just in Jersey, probably even, let's say, someone from the UK, because we don't want to see, personally, I don't think, college is bad here in Jersey or in general, because they kind of like give you some sort of
They give you stuff that restaurants don't. I would have never learned HACCP in the first year at work. I don't think half the chefs in the kitchen possibly knew HACCP, or for example, the health and safety side of it, or the paperwork side of the health and safety. I wouldn't have learned that. So yeah, I think it's crucial to have some sort of education, some sort of program to, to give you the basics and give you the sort of fundamental understanding of, whether it's running a business or whether it's purely just health and safety, because you don't necessarily learn that in a kitchen. I was very lucky to move into a kitchen with, 7 or 8 professionals and
High standard.
yeah, and decent people, and good education and good work ethic, but so for me to say no, don't go to college, just go to work. Not everybody's going to get that same. Not going to be as lucky to get that same environment. I've been in some pretty poor kitchens over the years. Quite shocking in terms of the actual kitchen, but also attitudes of staff. Managers, really, really poor. So if you went from school or from sort of education into that, you would have no chance. And you're either going to end up like that or you're going to just go. And I think the most likely option is you would just, you'd end up leaving. So in an ideal world, get into work, yes, get into the best kitchen you can. But obviously that, that differs for a lot of people.
I mean, although you are like really young, do you have some, like in your career, do you have some funny stories that you want to share with us that you happened to experience? A
lot of funny stuff's happened in the last sort of 10 years. A lot of funny stuff. A lot of it I probably couldn't share. I think just general banter in the kitchens is fantastic. I know banter's certainly got a bit of the actual word banter's got a bit of a name for himself in terms of being a little bit. Maybe not. A lot of people don't agree with it, but I think certainly in kitchens, it's such an important part, and as long as it doesn't get taken too far, and as long as the the senior members or whatever are on that, and it doesn't turn into bullying or anything like that, which it can quite easily do, as we all know. But I think in terms of just banter, just the jokes, it's great fun.
I remember you and Alex at the time when I was working there. He was always, and then look, he's now one of your main guys in the kitchen. Well, I remember he was kitchen porter at the time, and between you and him and Johnny, and always like these kind of conversations. But it was fun. I mean, probably in other places, what people don't understand, it's a different kind of environment from this point of view. Not that you're not allowed to get upset, but then if it's both ways, this kind of conversation, it's not bullying.
Yeah. Problem is, it just takes that one person to say that one extra thing, and before you know it, you're in like a spiral of abuse and sort of fight. I remember making Alex, old head chef who used to work with, he had made this sauce or something. He got Alex to throw it away by convincing him it was like dirty dishwater or something. And he threw this whole sauce away that the head chef Sean had been working on for a fair few hours, and just seeing the faces on him when he realised that he'd thrown it away was hilarious. I'm never going to forget that. But yeah, no, I mean, loads of funny stuff. We have a right laugh, and I think it's very important, especially with the longer hours, to have that sort of camaraderie within the kitchen.
Keep those vibes.
Yeah, you got to.
Yeah, I agree. So what will be your plan? What's Tom Radiguet's plan for the near future, professionally?
My plan? It's a tricky question. There's a lot of stuff planned, put it that way. Not all of it I'm going to share.
Okay.
There is a lot of plans within the business I am now, and also other stuff. Like I said,
big things.
Big things for Jersey, yeah.
Okay,
I mean, not massive.
I mean, I'm sure we can meet in future podcasts. We can share more if it's not possible at this point.
Yeah. No, I'm not. I mean, you know what Jersey's like, as we all do. It's not. I'm not going to be giving stuff away, but like I said, I always have to be on my toes and always have to be kept busy. So I'm always looking for new stuff, exciting stuff, ways to move forward. I've been at Samphire 10 years now. The only reason, the reason I've been there for 10 years is because I did a bit of work in London, decided I didn't want to move there, did a little bit of work in Oxford, and I came back to Jersey because I like Jersey. I like the way of life. I had family, friends, all that over here. Not that I got to see them that much, but they were all here, and Samphire was the only, or Ormer and Samphire was the only restaurant on the island that interested me. It was the only restaurant that I saw had potential, that had drive, and that I was able to. And it was the only place that got me excited about cooking. There wasn't any other restaurants on the island which sort of excited me or intrigued me. So that's the reason I kept coming back, you know, to Samphire, taking these breaks, coming back. And, you know, it's the reason I'm still here now.
Did you see yourself working in like a different country or going?
Initially, no. I've worked my arse off for the last 10 years. I really have. I've devoted sort of my whole life to it. You know, missed out on a lot, but you know, I've now been able to, you know, buy a house with my partner, and yeah, you know, we've got that, and I look forward to the next sort of 5-10 years over here of, you know, setting up sort of life and, you know, working just as hard, but possibly in different ways. You know, to advance the business and, you know, possible other projects that, you know, will be going on. So yeah, I'm genuinely excited by it. See what comes in terms of working somewhere else for a serious amount of time. Probably not now. You know, I'm pretty settled here. You know, I love Jersey. So yeah, nothing in the near future. We'll keep it here for now.
So whichever the plans are, will be here in Jersey.
Yeah, no further than the UK. Put it that way.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
That sounds good. So if people want to find your cooking, find more about you, well, part that you want to share, obviously, where can they find you? Social media or?
There's a couple of cheeky videos on YouTube, I think, of lockdown cooking. Yeah, social media, Instagram, and yeah, you know, the Samphire's website and all that. I don't have too much of a social media present just because I don't feel not even that. It's just not something that, you know, there's a big part of me which would like to just not have any social media. I only got Instagram under 2 years ago, you know, because I wanted to get it purely for work and for sort of career. But yeah, I mean, I probably should be a bit more switched on with like LinkedIn and all that. But no, I'm not. But no, Instagram professionally.
Instagram, and what's your address if people want to find you and kind of like?
Good question.
Yeah,
it is.
I think it's like something Chef Radiguet, but I can't remember.
Chef _Radiguet. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So if people want to see like what's going on in Samphire, how the cooking is going there, what exciting news and menus have.
Come in and eat, or come in for a chat. You know, we're constantly getting people, a lot of students walking in and, you know, just coming for a chat or a bit of advice, or, you know, we're always supporting people to come in the kitchen, do a day in the kitchen.
Oh yeah, you still do the master?
We do them, but you know,
I remember
the classes. But more so, you know, students from college come in just to experience a day in the kitchen. You can taste everything, have some staff food with us, and, you know, we won't pay you for it, but it gives you an insight to.
Wow, in other places you will have to pay for it.
And there's not many kitchens that will sort of welcome you with open arms.
Yeah,
you know, to sort of experience that.
So people that want to basically have a better understanding of how a kitchen runs or how Samphire runs, you know, under your command, like just come in.
Come in and, you know, send an email.
That's cool. That's really cool. If people listen to this or watch us, because we'll be both on audio and video, Chef _Radiguet and get it sorted. Yeah. Thank you, Tom. It was great. I really enjoyed this. It was a great conversation because we kind of bump on into another every now and then, but we never really have the chance to talk for that long. I'm sure I'll see you in future episodes whenever the big plans are happening and when you have more to share with us. I'm sure we'll see you around. And yeah, thank you so much. Cool. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you, mate.